I just set my daughter up on her Zoom call, so.
Good.
We'll see.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to get started. My name is Victoria Rogers. I'm the Membership and Community Relations Specialist here at the Greater Scranton Chamber of Commerce. Appreciate everyone taking their time on a Friday, TGIF for everyone here. Thank you so much. And we have some great presentations today from a couple of our friends. We have Krista Muma, I hope I said that right again. Yes. And Kate Skopp. They're going to be our first presenters. We're going to go in. Deb Langen is with us too. That could make this possible. So what we're going to do is I'm going to share my screen with the presentation and we're going to run through. We do ask that you wait with your questions towards the end. You're welcome to go down to the chat box on the bottom, submit any questions you might have through the presentation. I am recording this in case anybody misses anything or wants to go back with the information. We will be sending out the presentation with the recording on our website. So feel free, if you missed anything, don't worry, we'll be putting that up as well. So I will keep you all on mute and we're going to start. All right, Krista, you ready?
Okay, I am ready. So good morning, everyone. I am Krista. My location today is in Harrisburg. My home office and our regular office are down here in Harrisburg. Actually, I was just thinking it was September of 2019 when we were in Scranton with 20 of our international reps. So it's been a wild year since then, but that was due to Debbie. Debbie is our partner for your region. She is in Pittston, but she covers the counties, including Scranton and surrounding Schuylkill and Lackawanna. So we work very closely with her as she works closely with you and the companies in your region. So for many of you, you may or may not know, Pennsylvania has a small department for international business development. And what that means in short is that we work with Pennsylvania companies to develop their customers overseas, and that's anywhere outside the continental US. We work with market research, regulations, all of those things. So you can go ahead and take it to the next slide, Victoria. We are one of the largest state programs in terms of who we work with internationally and the consultants that are dedicated to working with Pennsylvania companies. Our office in Harrisburg in total is about 11 people. The trade team, there are 4 of us, Jen, who's on the line, and myself. Kate is part of our operations team and helps with the contracts and this grant program and many, many other hats. Go ahead to the next slide. So this just is a quick snapshot of our team. Currently, we have 11 offices overseas. They are contractors. They are paid for by state tax dollars, and they provide these services free of charge to any company that runs into issues, that wants to look at their strategy for potentially reaching customers. And for some people, that starts as small as getting a random email and not knowing, is this legitimate? Is this spam? And just working with companies to understand what the opportunities might be for them. 98% of the exporters out of the US are small and medium companies. Only 2% are the big guys like the Boeings of the world. So we're making it happen. Go ahead to the next slide. This is a snapshot. Debbie, I mentioned out of the Northeast, she's one of 10 regional partners because obviously Harrisburg is small and in the middle there. And we don't know all of the companies that are hiding out. I was talking earlier, it's one of the reasons I came back was because it's just amazing to me to learn of all the companies and what they're doing here in Pennsylvania. It's truly some smart people making some good things happen. So from Erie to Philly, there are offices. So if you happen to be on the call and you're not in Scranton, or if you're listening to the recording, these are how you get to these international folks in the end. So the next slide. And the red dots are where the offices are today: Canada, Mexico. We have a few in Europe, Australia, South Korea, India, and then we have one coverage for the Middle East as well. So, and Debbie has all those details. We've worked with these people extensively. Some of them have been with Pennsylvania for close to 20 years, as old as the program. Some of them are newer. But they're very knowledgeable in multiple industries, and they've helped a lot of companies understand partners and customers and trade shows and anything and everything. They've done research across the board. So go ahead to the next slide. This is just a small glimpse of where Pennsylvania stands in the rest of the US. We are 10th, so that is pretty impressive. We sell worldwide. If you look at just our top 5 markets, they are Canada and NAFTA, Mexico, the NAFTA USMCA area, and then China, Japan, and into Europe through the United Kingdom. As of 2019, our exports were at $42.7 billion. We rank up there with some countries in the level of exports that we move. So next slide, please. This is just a shot of our program to give you an idea of what we're doing on a daily basis from 2019. And this is the state's fiscal year from June to June. So this did go into the second quarter of COVID. There has been some slowdown, but in other areas, there's been an increase. So it really depends on the industry and what's happening. Obviously, travel itself has been very stunted right now, and we're looking forward to the end of 2021 and the coming time for companies to be able to have in-person meetings. But thankfully for technology, a lot of things are still happening. So we worked with 707 companies around Pennsylvania. They completed 1,200 projects, so some companies had more than one. And export actions are things that we count, like doing a trade show, signing a distributor deal, having intense meetings with potential partners. That just gives you an idea of the activities that these companies are doing. 217 reported sales to us. Now you'll notice this number doesn't match Pennsylvania's overall sales, but this is just the sales reported by our clients and the work that they've done with us in years, because export transactions can take time. So $541 million. Next slide. This is what I mentioned, what brought us to Scranton in 2019 and what will hopefully bring us back in 2022. But this year we went virtual. So in addition to what you'll learn today about this very specific grant program and the monies that might be available, if you're interested in any particular market, we did upload the presentations from this September's virtual event to our library. And when you get this presentation, you can click on this link and go in there and find out more about any of the markets and what industries there might be some synergy with. But it usually happens in September. Again, depending on how COVID goes, we could be looking at a spring event in 22. But Debbie will keep you posted what's happening. And normally it's in the Scranton Wilkes-Barre area. So. And that gives you a chance to meet them face to face and talk through projects and what you might be looking at. So the next slide. This is just a glimpse of some of the companies we worked with. Bassett's Ice Cream, Del Grosso, some food companies, all UMF Medical. So many different industries, mining, solar power, Gilson Scheme. So many industries, many different markets, and many different size companies. So don't hesitate to contact Debbie. She'll work with us to understand, what the best steps for you are. Next slide. Okay, that's the end of my portion. Kate's going to take it away with the details of the GAP grant, which is through the SBA. So thank you.
All right, next slide, please. All right, so good morning, everybody. My name is Kate Skopp. I'm with the Pennsylvania Office of International Business Development, and I am the STEP director for this program. And Pennsylvania has won this grant for several years. And with the funds that were granted from the SBA, we have launched the Global Access Program. So we're going to get into some of the details about how this might be a good fit for you. So next slide. Just a quick overview of the mission of what the STEP program is trying to accomplish. The SBA launched this grant about 9 years ago, and their goal is to increase the number of small businesses that are exporting and the amount of those exports. That's really what they're trying to do. So they gave the grants to the states, and then it's our responsibility to figure out how to issue it to all of the companies within our region. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Next slide. So with the funds that we've been given, we have the Global Access Program, and it's a small program, and we've got two running at the same time just because of the way they've structured the grants. They're overlapping at this current time. And you can get into all the nitty-gritty details on the website, which is listed here at dced.pa.gov/gap. But we'll give you some of the highlights so that you know if this is something that you might be able to pursue. Next slide. So a couple of the main points to capture here is for everything that you want to accomplish with the program, we're looking for an application. And we look for one activity per application. So you might have a bunch of ideas, and we encourage you to talk to Debbie through all of your ideas and your plans and your strategies. And she can help you figure out which way to pursue different funding opportunities and structure the paperwork for the program. And with that, you can get up to 2 applications per grant year. And since we have 2 grants running at the same time, conceivably, you could get up to 4 grants. But it just depends on what you're doing and how much the activity costs and so on. So we're going to really work with you, hold your hand to figure out the best way to maximize any reimbursements and to make it as simple as possible. As far as reimbursement, we look at what you're doing and we look at everything that's eligible under the grant program. And 75% of that we can reimburse, and 25% is your match, or skin in the game. The federal government wants to see that the company is really going to pursue this and has got some something into it as well. It's not just total grants. And since we have the 2 rounds of funding, we'll look to see what your activity is and which one to pursue, because they are different maximum awards. So we call them GAP 8 and GAP 9, simply because that's the year that the federal government is issuing the funding in. And it could be up to 5,000 or up to 10,000. But they both do expire on September 29th, 2021. So we've got about 8-ish months left available to do activities. And we have around $800,000 left. So we've got plenty of funding to get out there. And so we're interested in talking to everybody and seeing what you're doing and how we can assist. Next slide. Just to go through some of the eligible expenses without getting into too much detail. The first one we have are virtual trade shows. And that's simply because a lot of the real life in-person face-to-face trade shows are on hold, being postponed or canceled. And some have pivoted to be virtual. And some cost the same amount, some are more, some are less. But the SBA is recognizing these as an eligible activity. So we want to see that if you're interested in pursuing this, meeting with customers or networking with other suppliers and so on at these events, this is something that is eligible and those fees could qualify. So if this is something you're looking at, please reach out. Another item that is on the list, which hadn't been too much used in the past, but is now really becoming something that companies are taking care of now because so much travel is on hold, is compliance testing. And by this, we mean if you need a particular qualification or certification to sell your product or service in a particular region or market, if you can't do business without that, those usually are qualified. SBA has left it open for us to decide to find out what you're looking to do. So these are the tests that we have identified so far that are eligible. If you're looking at something that's not on the list, don't worry. Just let us know what it is, and we'll reach out to the SBA and find out, get their feedback, and hopefully have a positive response for that. So we're looking to see how we can help you, because that we know is part of the process of exporting. Next is website internationalization. It's a big word, and it's got a lot behind it, and it's not just a simple thing. It's basically figuring out if your website is speaking to an international audience. And there's different ways to go about it, and there's different ways you can pursue it in terms of a specific market approach or a regional approach, which is a little bit softer. So there's different ways to understand this, and you're able to reach out to the Department of Commerce. They've got some great resources to find out if this is, or what your current website is and what steps you need to take. But basically, it's making sure that you're speaking to an international audience through your website. And so this is now a qualified activity under the grant. So we want to make sure that you are getting out there and your products are marketed to that international audience. Next slide, please. Next we have is e-commerce. I don't know about you, but I've done a lot of online shopping this past year. It's become the thing to do just so people and folks and companies are safer. And so what the SBA has realized is that companies are doing the same thing, and they may not be able to sell or complete a transaction with an international customer. So what they've done is they updated this grant so that we can offer particular services to make sure that your website can handle international payments, transactions, and be able to be in that market. So if you're looking to do this and upgrade it so that you can speak to clients in India, let us know, because that might be something that qualifies. And then moving more on the digital idea is that marketing. You're going to sell it, but you have to get the word out about that. So digital marketing media is a qualified expense. It is important to know that it's for an international market. So we need to see how that is, because a lot of the things that can be done can go both domestic and international. We want to see the focus on the international. And that could be translating a video, adding subtitles, and so on. So that is something that's qualified. And something that's always been there has been the Department of Commerce services and fees. So anything that the federal government offers that has a cost and it's for export promotion, that is qualified. So there's a whole list on the website, and we'll see what we can do to make sure if Pennsylvania doesn't offer that service and the federal government does, those will qualify under the grant. And last but not least is international travel. And that's for trade missions, trade shows, and market sales trips. Many of these are on hold, but if you are looking at something maybe later in 2021 that might fall still in the grant by the end of September, please bring it to our attention. This is something that we're hoping we'll start to see trickle back in. We don't know when, but things are starting to turn back on slowly, especially now with the vaccine out there. There's a lot of optimism. So this is still something that's eligible, and we'll see how we can make that happen. Next slide, please. Again, this is just to reference back to our regional market. We work really closely with our REN partners. So Debbie is the person in the Scranton area who would be able to assist you, talk through your ideas, help you with all the paperwork. But we have folks, 9 other Debbies, so to speak, across the state that are able to help the companies in their region really compile the package that we need to put forward for the federal government grant. Next, please. This is just a quick listing of everybody, and there you go, Debbie. So we'll flash your information again at the end if you need it. Next slide. All right, just a quick overview of the process, so you know all the steps and how they all fit together in this big puzzle. The first thing we would recommend is that you would talk to Debbie. Just talk out any ideas you have for what you're looking to do, or if you're not sure, we might be able to make some recommendations, and all those different things. So we're looking to see what you're trying to do and how we can fit what you're trying to accomplish, your goals, with our export program as well as the GAP grant program. So we'll see how it all fits together. And with that, we would recommend you file all the paperwork just to qualify for the grant. These are a few things that are required by the federal government, and they're pretty painless. It's just a few forms. First is a client application, which asks for some background information on you as a company, what your goals are, have you done international before, and so on and so forth. So pretty painless. The next 2 are standard forms for debarment. Make sure you're in good financial standing, and the SBA self-representation for understanding you as your company and being a U.S. company, basically. And the last thing we threw on this list here is a PA vendor number, just something so that we make sure that if you do get grant funding, in the next few weeks or months that you've already got this established. In order to receive the reimbursement, you have to be in our vendor system. So it's just making sure that we've got your info so we can cut you a check. So we recommend that companies start that at the beginning, just so it doesn't delay the process at the end of the day. Next slide. The app application. So this is the step where when you've got identified and you've narrowed down what you're trying to accomplish and would like to pursue the grant for, we have a couple-page application where we ask for you to explain that to us. And it's just a paragraph here and there on the different items, an estimated budget, what your timeline is, so we can make sure we hold the appropriate amount of funds for that activity, and we can, manage everyone's expectations. So we do that, and again, if you travel, there's some extra paperwork, but I wouldn't worry about that one too much anyway. And those, again, are just to make sure everything is in line with budget. And then from there, all of this goes through Debbie, and she does a quick check of it to make sure all the T's are crossed and I's are dotted, and kicks it over to Harrisburg, where we have a group, which is Krista, myself, and a team of professionals that review all of these applications. If we have any questions, we'll come back to you to see if we can fill in the holes, but usually we'll do a quick review within a week, get back to you with an answer on funding. So next slide. After that, you pursue the activity. So whatever it is, the website or the virtual show, you go and you accomplish that task. And after that, you would then file for your reimbursement. So with that, it should be pretty straightforward. It's a quick form where you list all of the items and then you supply the receipts or invoices to back up that information. We do ask for proof of payment as well, just for auditing purposes. And so that all comes to us electronically, and we do a review of that and push it through for payment. Payment usually takes 6 to 8 weeks, depending on processing time within the state, because it has to go through multiple layers. And then, of course, we do ask for a post-activity survey. We give this to you up front, and it's just for you to tell us how the event went, any feedback you have. Did you have success? Can you share some pictures? We want to hear how it went. We're really interested in those stories, and we're fortunate today to have Ryan be able to give us a quick story as well. And then there's one extra form in case you do a domestic trade show, but I wouldn't worry about that one at this point either. And then step 7 is something that happens a couple months down the road. Usually that's Debbie reaching out just to follow up to say, hey, we know something happened. And just because we do exporting and we understand, it takes time for these relationships to come to fruition and sales to occur. So we'll reach back out every couple months to see how things are going. And we try to capture those on a paper so that we can report those sales to our legislature as well as the federal government, just to kind of say, yes, this program is working. So it really helps to drive the point home. Next slide. A couple quick tips and tricks. There are no silly questions. Ask anything. We'll see what we can do. If we don't know the answer, we go to the SBA to get clarification. So we are here as a resource. Please use us. The SBA qualification, which I noted in step 2, you can do that today if you're interested. Just get it done. You don't have to pursue the GAP grant, but it's done, so you don't have to worry about it. So if you're interested and think this is something you'll do in a couple months, you can get ahead of the curve and get that part done. Again, the vendor number is just something we do so that it helps streamline the processing at the back end, just making sure that you've already got everything in the system so we can issue that check. Just some food for thought. Some of these items on the eligible list work for both domestic and international, so we want to make sure that the application is really structured and focused on the international component, because that is the core purpose of the program. So making sure that you're telling us what markets you're looking at or why it'll help drive export sales, a regional approach, et cetera. We really just want to understand really why it's international, that activity. This is something that'll help move things faster, is receipts and organization of them. If you can keep a good file of them, make sure everything's labeled appropriately, or translated or converted if need be, that really helps to speed up the reimbursement review process. The more time we have to take to sort things and translate and so on, it may cause a delay. So it's just something to keep note of as you're going through the process. I know as I travel and I order things and I get a receipt and it's in German, 2 weeks later when I get home, I may not remember what food is on that particular receipt. So just make notes as you go. It certainly will help you in the long run. And report back. We want to hear how things went. If you had a great time or you experienced success, we want to hear about it. We want to see pictures. If you didn't, or you had struggles, or there were different roadblocks that you experienced, we again want to hear that too, so that we can make sure to A, to address those, and B, figure out what we can do to fix that for any future companies or your experiences moving forward. So we just want to hear about it and share the good news. Next slide, please. Again, just a quick snapshot of all of the activities that are eligible under the grant, just for as you're thinking of things that you might be looking to pursue. These are what are eligible right now under the Global Access Program. I think that's all for me. You can go to the next slide. That's it, yes. So Debbie, Krista, and myself, we are all here to answer any questions. Please let us know if you've got ideas. We'll talk through whatever we can. But I'm going to kick it back to Deb right now, and she's going to see if there's anything she wants to add for her closing remarks.
Thank you, Kate. Thanks, Krista. Good morning, everybody. A special thank you to the Chamber for putting today's event together and for letting us present on this great little program that we have. So as everyone mentioned, I'm Debbie Langen. I'm the Senior International Business Manager at the Northeastern Pennsylvania Alliance. My agency is a regional economic development agency. Obviously, we work with the state on this particular program. We also work with the federal government. We work with the Chamber on something called the PREP program, the Partnership for Regional Economic Performance. I believe that one is. But as we're here today to talk about the international program. I am your local point of contact for processing GAP applications and also for accessing Pennsylvania's trade offices that Krista mentioned earlier. I'm very happy to work with you on figuring out best uses for a GAP and of course, submitting all the paperwork and the reimbursement information. Any questions, my contact information is there. Mostly, I guess today I'm here to introduce Ryan from a local company that used the GAP back in 2019 when things were still happening. Concrete Countertop Solutions is located in Scott Township, and Ryan actually I think works out of the Philadelphia office, but I'd invite Ryan to talk a little bit more about the company and how they used the GAP back in 2019. Thanks, Ryan.
Perfect. Thanks, Debbie. And just thank you in general for all the work you put in and helping us along with our grant back then. And just to kind of let everyone know what we do. So we manufacture and distribute products to pour concrete countertops and pool decks. And our business is primarily domestic, but we did have a little bit of export business that we were kind of looking to expand back in 2019. So we had a trade show lined up down in New Orleans, something that we were planning on going to anyway, and something that we've been doing for years and just had always focused kind of on the domestic side to grow our distribution business. And with Deb's help, we were able to kind of tweak our pitch a little bit and able to focus more on the export and international distributors. So we talked to people in Canada, Australia, Europe. We talked to some people there, and just the whole program was great because it really made us dial in and focus our strategy during the trade show. If you've ever been to one of those, it's easy to get kind of overwhelmed and just show up and forget kind of what you wanted to be doing there. So the follow-up and kind of the checklist and getting everything in order really helped us to focus in and then follow up once we were done and make sure that we were talking to those leads. And COVID actually has been pretty beneficial to our company. People are staying home a lot more, so they're investing in backyards and a lot more people putting in pools. So 2020 and 2019, our year-over-year export growth was like 20% or something crazy. So we're really happy that we were able to do it. Really thankful for Deb's help and the SBA. Everyone involved was super helpful, and we can't wait to get back to the next trade show. Hopefully we're doing stuff in person here soon.
Thank you, Ryan. I guess, Victoria, we'll turn it back to you if there are any questions.
That was great. Thank you so much. I do see some things here on the bottom, so I will read them through. Krista was kind enough to put the PA non-procurement vendor registration there. There's a link. Feel free to use that. Awesome. Any questions? I don't see any just yet. Feel free to raise your hand or put it in our chat box here. Brian, thank you so much for sharing that. That was great.
Yeah, if I would just say again, Ryan, if you have any other ideas sparked by Kate's great presentation, digital marketing, the e-commerce, translation, please, I think the state, we're all looking to really get a lot of this money out on the street. Trying to think creatively, and I'm running a lot of questions by Krista and Kate. So everyone listening, if there might be a possibility, I'm really happy to work with you. So, and $10,000 this year, Ryan, everyone, it's a great opportunity.
And along with the recording and the slides, we have a spreadsheet that has some statewide and then a few outside the state as well, resources that specialize in this. Deb mentioned the federal government can do a website review, but that also can be part of a program with a private company. If you know any in your region that do a website review, I know it's not always an easy task to take on your website, but think about things like if your industry has an online website portal where they offer packages that you can do banners or put up papers. If your industry issues papers on certain subjects, that's applicable in some medical and other things. So it really is very flexible in light. Typically all our money goes to companies that are traveling for trade shows and meeting customers face to face. It really is usually just wiped out by that. But there really is a lot more flexibility to look at some of these things and take this time while we're at home to understand how we can reach those customers, because trade shows are great, but they're usually only once a year, every other year. So we really want to know that when a customer's searching, for something unique and putting that word in Google or whatever, and that your company shows up, or they at least have a chance to check you out. So
ladies,
yeah.
I did get a question from Robert. He did ask, does the GAP program help with the DATA data?
I'm not super familiar with what the DATA or data is specifically, so I'd ask for more information. The program is tailored toward international, so if you're looking at advertising, it has to be geared towards that particular market and so on. Could you give us some more information?
Am I unmuted?
No, you're good now.
Nope, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. When I'm talking about data, I was mostly talking about, because I have subscriptions to import-export data. The issue that I find out with some of my clients is basically their inability to afford that data, which kind of gives them inside knowledge on competitors. And I know you can go through the U.S. Commercial Service, gold key matching for a certain type of data, but there's a certain level of hand holding they can only do. With a lot of these small businesses, I noticed with big data, bigger companies have more access into these export and import markets because they can afford the data. And I think that's what helps. That's what really hurts small businesses. Like I just went to South Africa in November. Now I have the budget to do it, but my clients under me don't really have those budgets to really afford the data, to know where exactly to pinpoint at, to find those jewels that may be looking for their product or service, don't really understand how the local embassies have reps there that are sitting there waiting to get calls from them to see if there's an opportunity. So I've been doing it for 16 years. I was registered with the SBDC in Philadelphia. My company is actually on their website. They actually highlighted my business in 2015. But just my whole thing with the talking to people that was in government, the U.S. trade rep, was trying to find out how do we help small businesses to really get the necessary data to compete on a global level. I think if they know exactly where they're going at, then they can kind of position themselves a little better. So that was mostly just my question from how does the GAP program, or is it something else that I should further be looking for besides the GAP program to help with that data, because it's so expensive.
I understand the expense for sure, just because we as a state agency look for data as well, and those are expensive items to pursue. As the GAP program is structured currently, it's not one of the eligible expenses. But there are the ways that they've tried to be flexible. So it has come up in conversation with previous states that they've discussed about data. So I know it's certainly a topic on the table. I don't have a solid answer at the moment, but the feds are looking at this as something that they know is needed by companies and the states. So I will do some more digging into that and hopefully be able to follow up with you. And if possible, I'll get your information from the team here when you signed up to respond back to that in more detail.
Basically the only question that I have, because data is king. That it is, even if you internationalize a website and you get them prepared without the correct data, they cannot focus on the market. So I always try to throw that in just to kind of see if I can open up the discussion to try to help small business around central Pennsylvania as well as Philadelphia that I represent, to try to help them to get the data that they need to really be successful in the global market. So.
Great.
Totally understand and agree where you're coming from. So I'll follow back up with you after this, Robert. Thanks.
Thanks, Kate.
Any other questions or comments or ideas? No? Well, I think that's about it. I again will have this put on our website with the slides. Thank you so much to everyone for today, and Krista, Deb, Kate, thank you so much for your presentations and your partnership on this for our members and non-members to help them out as much as we can. If that's all, I hope everyone has a great Friday, and look for more webinars that we'll have. And take care, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, y'all.
Take care. This is great.